Chapter 12. When my alarm clock rang the next morning, I didn't hear the buzzer. All I heard was Monday morning, Monday morning, Monday morning. It was going to be tricky getting Niagara Falls to school, so we had to leave extra early. Ashley said her mom had to be at the hospital anyway, so she didn't mind walking us to school. We met in the basement. Frankie and I each picked up one end of the pan. Since it was my project, I volunteered to be the one who walked backward. Ashley took the water pump, the saran wrap hose, and a paper bag with my costume in it. I haven't mentioned the costume before because I threw it in at the last minute. I thought it would add what Papa Pete calls pizzazz. When we got outside our building, Ashley cleared the people out of the way and kept watch for big cracks in the sidewalk so I wouldn't trip. First, we passed by Mr. Kim's market. He was putting out buckets of fresh flowers for the day. When he saw Niagara Falls, he took a flower from one of the buckets and put it on the top of the cliffs. "Flowers grow on mountain top," he said. "Thanks, Mr. Kim," I said. We reached the corner and waited for the light to change. When it was green, we crossed Amsterdam Avenue. A couple of cab drivers blew their horns as we walked by, probably because they were so amazed to see Niagara Falls passing by right in front of them. I felt good, because a lot of them had probably never been to Niagara Falls, and at least now they were getting a chance to see it. "Please, hold your honks," I shouted, as I took a half bow, "and thank you, one and all." Frankie started to laugh, and then I did too. Ashley knew we were heading into one of our marathon laughing fits. When we were little, she watched us get plenty of time-outs in school because of our uncontrollable laughter. "Stop it, boys," she said. "Concentrate. You don't want to drop it now." "Children, don't dawdle in the intersection," Ashley's mom said. She had a good point. You can't fool around in a New York intersection. When the light changes, the cars go. If you're in the way, it's your problem. Dr. Wong is very nice but very quiet. Ashley says she doesn't talk much because most of the people she is around all day are asleep. She's a surgeon. We made it to the school crosswalk without falling, tripping, or dropping the project. We only had a few more steps to go, but they were tricky ones. There are a couple of big potholes in front of our school. They're always fixing them, but then other ones pop up. I heard once that potholes happen in the winter when there is ice and snow. Or maybe it's the traffic. No, I think it's the weather. When Emily was in kindergarten, I told her they were dragon footprints. Of course, it didn't scare her because, as we all know, she likes reptiles. Our school is 3 stories high. On the street side of the building, the bricks are covered with a big mural painted by some local New York artists. It shows a lot of happy kids with books open, sitting and reading happily under a rainbow. They sure didn't use me as a model. When the traffic was clear, Mr. Baker, the crossing guard, took us across the street. "That's a mighty fine-looking mountain you got there," he said to us. "It's Niagara Falls, sir," I said. "Well, it's a mighty fine-looking Niagara Falls." That made me feel good. Even though Mr. Baker says nice things to all the kids, I like to think he really did like our project. Finally, we reached the main door of PS 87. There were kids swarming all around the school, and we had to be careful not to get crunched. We were attracting a lot of attention. "Keep your distance," I said to a bunch of first graders who were hovering around us. "Important 4th grade business coming through." Ashley held the door open for us, and we backed into the hall. We started the long climb to the 2nd floor in our classroom. As luck would have it, the first person we saw when we got to the top was Nick McKelty. "What is that supposed to be?" he asked in his usual creepoid manner. I wasn't going to let this guy get to me. "You just might be the only person in New York not to get it," I said. "We totally stopped traffic on Amsterdam Avenue. The taxis honked like we were afloat in the Thanksgiving Day parade." "Oh, yeah," McKelty said. "I was asked to ride on a float this year." "Right, and my name is Bernice," Frankie said. "In fact," McKelty went on, "they wanted me to be Santa Claus in the parade, but I said, 'Sorry, I'm already booked. Maybe next year.'" "Breathe," Frankie said to himself. Then he turned to McKelty. "That's good," Frankie said, "because your face would have scared all those little kids. It's such a drag seeing kids cry at a parade." "Oh, yeah," McKelty answered. "What a comeback," said Ashley. "You're quick, McKelty." From around the corner, we heard the squeak, squeak, squeak of rubber on linoleum. That could only be Principal Love. He always wears these black rubber-soled shoes that close with 2 Velcro straps. I guess he never learned to tie his laces. "What have we here?" he boomed in his tall man, bushy hair voice. "We put Niagara Falls down on the floor." "My summer vacation," I answered. Nick stepped right in front of me. "Our assignment is to do a 5-paragraph essay on what we did this summer," said Nick. He gave Principal Love a smile that any sane person would describe as very, very icky. My adventure was so exciting that my essay turned out to be 8 paragraphs. And that's cutting it down from 10. "Mr. McKelty, you've got a future," Principal Love grinned. And then he turned to me. "And as for you, Mr. Zipser, don't be late for class." He squeaked off down the hall. McKelty ran after him, continuing to blab in his ear, probably telling him how much he happens to love Velcro straps on shoes. "Don't be late," I muttered under my breath. "Where does he think I'm going? To the cafeteria for a big breakfast?" "Forget him," said Ashley. "You've got to keep your mind on what you're doing here." I could still see McKelty walking down the hallway talking to Principal Love like he was his best friend. Then I saw something truly disgusting. "I don't believe it," I said. "McKelty's putting his arm around him." The McKelty factor strikes again. The bell rang and Nick came lumbering down the hallway toward us. Just before he turned into the classroom, he stopped and looked at me. "I have a wonderful surprise in store for you, Zippity Zipser," he said. He gave me an annoying flick under the chin and slithered into class like the slimy snake he is.